everyone, today I wanted to share with you one of our favorite family recipes. This is for Boston cream donuts. So when we make this recipe, normally I make the custard, my sister Ryan makes the donut dough, and then one or the other of us will make the chocolate glaze. So we're just going to do that like we normally do. Ryan's going to show you how she makes the dough, but before we do that we have to make the pastry cream. So I already have my eggs separated here. I have egg yolks here. I'm going to share the measurements for the size of batch that we make, but I will write in the description box both the size of batch that we make and a smaller batch if you don't want to make as much as we do, which you probably don't. So I have 32 egg yolks. I have 4 cups of cane sugar. So I started to do that wrong. I was supposed to mix the sugar and the cornstarch together. It's been a little bit since I've made this. So I've got the sugar in a big stock pot here with a heavy bottom. Normally you could just use a smaller saucepan, but because of how much I'm making, we're using this. I'll add the cornstarch. This will help prevent any lumps. Wisdom, can you give me a big spoon to scoop out the sugar I dumped in there? So in the pan you're going to be using, you want your cornstarch and sugar mixed together, and then in your other bowl you're going to mix together the egg yolks and milk. Now we're going to add 12 cups of milk to the egg yolks. I'm going to add part of that and then quickly mix that in. Skip to the back. Then you're going to mix the egg mixture carefully into the cornstarch mixture. I like to do this a little bit at a time, just at first, to avoid any lumps. Not about half of that. Alright, now we're going to add 2 sticks of butter, so a cup of butter. Alright, now we're going to start heating this up. Normally we would add a few tablespoons of vanilla, about 3 tablespoons, but we are out of vanilla. But I do have the vanilla beans from our vanilla bottle, and I'm just going to add like 2-3 of those to the pot, and I will take those out later. Now we're just going to keep stirring this pretty consistently so that it doesn't clump or stick to the bottom. And we're going to bring this to a boil and let it boil for 1 minute. Alright, so usually fancy places they would strain this through a sieve. Those come here to die, so we don't currently have one and we don't really mind the lumps. So we're just going to put it into these restaurant tubs to keep it cold in the fridge. I probably will need a third one, but oh well. You can also put saran wrap over the top if you don't want a skin to form. Sometimes we do that, sometimes we don't. And then we're just going to put this in the fridge to chill while we make our donuts. And then we'll show you the next step. Alright, so it's actually been a couple of days because we got busy with farm sitting. But now we are back to make the donut dough. Whenever the girls, Ryan and Lily, make it, my younger sisters, they don't really use a recipe because they make it often enough they don't need one. Unless I have been in the habit of making bread, I loosely base my recipe on Sue Becker's basic yeast dough recipe. I leave a lot of things out though and increase some things, so it's not quite the same. So I'll tell you how I do it. So I have, it should be 2/3 of a cup of butter. I'm going to go ahead and do a cup today because I just don't feel like messing with parts today. fine. So I have, you can use any oil you like. I like to use butter. It kind of makes it more like a brioche, especially with the eggs that I'm going to add in a minute. The eggs are optional though, so if you don't have them, you don't have to add those. I actually will just do 2/3 of a cup. Alright, now over that butter, where did I put the cup? Alright, over the butter I'm going to pour some hot water. This is almost boiling, which means I'll have to wait for it to cool. But the reason why I do boiling or almost boiling is because it helps to melt the butter. And we store our butter in the freezer a lot of the time. So this just makes it faster. Naomi, will you get me the dough hook, please? Mm-hmm. So 2/3 of cup butter, 3 cups of hot water.
What are you making?
Making donuts.
Oh.
Alright, now that this has cooled down, I'm going to add 2 eggs. Then I have 3 tablespoons of yeast. If your water is too hot, it will kill the yeast and your dough will not rise. So you want to make sure it's really just warm water. Alright, now I can start adding the flour, and you're going to want about 8 to 9 cups of flour. This is fresh milled hard white. Is it hard white, right? Soft white. Okay, so this is fresh milled soft white wheat. We also use hard white. For our desserts and like pastries, we prefer to use a hard or soft white wheat because it behaves more like an all-purpose flour or a white flour. This doesn't have to be exact measurements because you're just going by how the dough looks. So I have probably about 8 cups in here now, and I'm going to start mixing that in with about 2 teaspoons of salt. When we're working with like a hard red wheat, or basically anything aside from when we're working with just about any grain aside from spelt or the softer hard white wheat, we also like to add a little bit of sunflower lettuce in, and that helps it to hold together a little bit better. Alright, now that we've got a nice dough here, it's soft but not sticky, I'm going to just let this rest in the bowl for a little while. I don't know about how long, about 15 minutes maybe. Yeah, flour on me. Anyway, let it rest for a little while I heat up the oil to fry the donuts in. So, unfortunately, I did not realize when I started that we were
to
the camera.
I thought you were talking to me.
No, I'm not. But I realized that we did not have any cream. So, I hope the donuts cooked properly. I ended up putting the dough in the fridge, and hopefully that was okay. I'm a little bit worried that they're not going to fry properly. But I made a ganache with just chocolate chips and cream. And normally I prefer, just a minute, buddy.
This is my dishwashing time.
Nice. Normally I prefer a dark chocolate, but all we had today was semi-sweet. So that's what I made it with. Our oil, though, is quite ready. So I'm going to start